is not about you watching me create. This is about understanding, discipline, and perseverance. There will be times that you fail. What is important is that you get back up and continue to learn. Do not be sorry. Be better. Yeah, that was my attempt at sounding like Kratos. Sorry if it was cringy. Anyway, it's 2022 now, and this is my final Inktober piece from what is now last year. I went through a misfortunate series of events, and I wasn't able to upload it, but I'm doing it now. Hopefully you enjoy the video. I'm not going to talk for too long. I already spent time doing that Kratos thing, so let's get to the art. So my process for this piece is pretty straightforward. I wanted to get the pencil sketching as clear and concise as necessary, which for this one wasn't very necessary. I didn't want it to be too detailed and left it pretty sloppy and pretty vague in a lot of areas. After I did the pencil sketching, I came in with a Copic marker, did a couple of layers of shading and trying to kind of sculpt it out a little bit more, you know. After that, I go in with ink, and the inking is where this piece really flourishes, and that was my plan from the beginning. I didn't need the pencil sketching to be anything too crazy detailed. I just wanted to have the basic gist down so that once I started inking, it all came together. I also had a very basic idea for the background, which was just going to be an abstract piece of black, literally nothing but blackness behind him. Kratos has very light skin, and a good way to make him pop and indicate that he has significantly lighter skin than any of his surroundings is to put something much darker behind him. It creates a nice depth of field throughout the piece, and that's what those lines are around his head. Just kind of me giving myself an idea of the parameter of where I want the background to be. After I finish the first layer of gray, I come in with a very light pink marker to once again indicate to myself a couple of things, which is where his red marks are, because those are important to the character. And also, it's just important to lay down your bases, which is what I'm doing here. You have to build up eventually, so those pink marks will become red over the course of this whole thing. You have to work your way up. And after that, I'm going in with a second Copic marker to darken and add a little bit of shadowing. This is where I start with the ink. So what I'm going for with this inking is a high level of detail, but not exactly realism. I want to maintain some of the characteristics that are a little more cartoony and add some stylized aspects of it that give it more of a flair, you know, really make it feel like it's my own style, my own version, iteration of Kratos. And yeah, if I pushed it too far and spent longer on this and probably used a smaller pen, it would have just become direct realism, like I'm doing a portrait of a real person, and he's a video game character, so that's not the intention here. But I did have a lot of fun with all those wrinkles and small details within his face. It adds so much extra character, and Kratos is a character with all kinds of character. I really enjoyed his facial hair and just getting as much detail as I could without going overboard. I didn't have any specific amount of time that I was going to let myself work on this piece, so I tried not to obsess over any of the tiny details and make sure that I was pushing to the next spots constantly, because I know myself, and if I don't do that, then I'll just sit there and work on like the tiny wrinkles on his nose for like 3 hours without moving to the next spot. So I had to make sure that I kept moving and kept pushing and getting to the next area so that I could eventually have a complete piece. Now now I have a very strong love-hate relationship with this beard. I really liked how it turned out the first time, and then I went in with white ink and redid a few different things. Then I went back over it with darker ink and tried to cover up a lot of that because I didn't really care for how it turned out. And I did that over and over for probably 3 or 4 times, and I'm gonna cut most of it out of this, but it just took too long. I mean, in the end, I was happy with the final product, but the amount of work and layers and trial and error that it took to get there was a little frustrating, I'm not gonna lie. So now going back in with more layers of darker gray Copic markers, trying to add as much depth and detail and shadowing as possible. It really brings a lot of the details out from the ink. I also added a bit of yellow and orange to his eyes, trying to bring them out a bit. Wasn't as effective as I had hoped, but it was kind of an afterthought, so that was what I expected, honestly. Now bringing out the red a little more, trying to make this pop a bit, add some shading with another Copic marker, as well as going back in with some black ink, trying to layer everything and make it look cohesive and like it's part of it, you know, not look like it's completely separated from the rest of the piece. And now coming in with the next shade of gray, adding more shadows and slight details to everything, really trying to darken that beard up and make it look as dark as it is in the games. He has a very, very dark beard, so it took quite a few layers to get it as dark as I needed it to be. And then eventually, like I said, I thought it was a little too dark, so then I went in with white. Didn't work out very well. Had to cover that up a few times, but you won't see much of that, so. And now after many cuts, going in with a black brush pen to fill in that background that I planned for at the beginning. I wanted the background to be pretty chaotic, nothing too controlled. I think it gives it a nice little artistic flourish. But yeah, that's just about it. This piece is pretty much done. I will add my signature and it'll be complete. I had a lot of fun making this piece, and I'm sorry it took me so long to get it uploaded. But constant apologies is not something you should make a habit of. Accepting, learning to forgive, and loving yourself is extremely important because you matter. And if you feel yourself slipping a little bit and you need a little help, don't be afraid to ask. Friends, family, professionals in the industry, there are people who care about you and are always going to be willing to help. I promise. You are awesome. Never forget that, okay? Alright, I'm gonna get out of here. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Maybe leave a like or a comment. Share this around with your friends and your family. But before I go, here is the finished piece.